Hey, Miss Johnson Dukes. So now we're in the learn phase of the our coaching session, and so in the last section we talked about your goal, and you mentioned your goal to be you want the students to have a more generalized understanding and be able to recognize connections without leading from you. So would that be an accurate goal? Is that
Yes.
okay? So, and the teaching strategy in our last meeting that you did talk a lot about, that I think you were passionate about, was the think, pair, share. So I want to go with that teaching strategy to help us to achieve this goal within your classroom. Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to go over together is a small little checklist that I made for the activity or the strategy to use so that we can help to accomplish the goal that we set for the students. So if there's anything you want to add or anything we should take out, then just tell me, feel free, and we can just talk about things we want to add and do within the classroom. So the first part of the checklist that I was thinking would help to accommodate the goal would be a thinking prompt. So starting the kids with a thinking prompt to actually see what they think about different concepts or something you're introducing or anything like that. So how do you feel about that?
I like that idea.
And it don't have to be anything big. We can start small just to see how they think. And since you want to do, so have your students done think, pair, share yet in your room?
They have a couple of times, but it's something I'd like to incorporate on a more frequent basis.
Okay. And when you do it in your room, because one thing I put on the checklist is to identify their partner. So do they already know who their partner will be, or do you just pick who?
Sometimes it's the person to the left of you or the right, but sometimes when they come in, I'll give them their partners.
Okay. So we can do the thinking prompt, and then I like the idea that you said when they come in, give them their partner. So let's go with that. So when they enter, we just give them a card or something, and so they can figure out who their partner is. So for the next part, what I thought about is having them think individually first. So what would be a good amount of time to give them to think on their own?
And that's always the hardest part for me, trying to give them that wait time, because you want, when they get to the sharing aspect, to actually, everybody has something so they can actually compare, or the pairs portion, they can actually have something to compare. Depending on the complexity of the problem, I would say 5 minutes.
And well, how do you think about this? Maybe we can start with 5 minutes, and then we can see how they're looking, and then maybe add on like 2 minutes in like slow increments, just to see build up from there. Because like you said, some may need more time than others. Okay, so we'll do the 5 minutes and then add in 2 minute increments. Okay, and then how much time to talk to the partner would you like?
At least 4 minutes, because 2 minutes, like a minute for me to state my case, a minute for you to state your case, and then the rest of the time us hashing it out, especially if our numbers disagree. Like, we need to sit there and figure out why.
Okay. And then another thing I came up with was, what do they need to produce for the class? So what would you like for the pairs to then share to the class?
We could either do it on the whiteboard, which makes it easy because then you can like put them all next to each other, or maybe the chart paper.
Okay. And then even, I don't know how you feel about this, if we want to incorporate the chart paper, then we can then from there go to a gallery walk where everybody can go into and tell their opinions on different things.
I like that.
Okay.
Good little combination.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how would you like to? That's one thing I was kind of stuck on. How would you like to end the discussion or the prompt?
I think whole group discussion.
Okay.
Glows and grows.
Okay. So is there anything, like, how do you feel about this going towards to help achieve the goal?
I like it. because I think it's going to get the kids up, moving around, and I think the students that are afraid to ask questions or afraid to give any type of input will feel better, because it's easier for me to talk to you and then put it on paper and it's just there as opposed to me saying it. So I think it's going to give students a voice.
And you think it will help them to make the different connections that you want them to make without you being in front telling them? They'll be able to identify those connections?
Especially with the gallery walk piece, because then they can go back and look and see what comments have been made.
Okay. So now one question I do want to ask for you, for this approach, how would you like to see it modeled? Would you like for me to come in your classroom and model it? We do a little co-teaching or watching a video? How would you want for us to go ahead and model this so that we can see if we are achieving the goal of having them make those connections and recognize their understanding?
I'd like to see it in your class with your kids, because then I get to see a teacher with the relationship already established.
So are there any other questions or any other concerns that you have?
I think one of my main things is I'd like to do it a couple of times. Like,
Okay.
I'd like to do it with you and you give me feedback, and then give me an opportunity to show you how I've incorporated your feedback so that you can tell me what else I need to do, because I really want to make sure that I'm doing it right, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yes. Or maybe we can do, since you want to do that, I do it first, we do it together, and then you do it by yourself.
That would be good.
That can be good. So we can probably, I know a good day sometime next week will work. And then we'll just meet back and talk about what we saw, and then because you can give me feedback on what worked as well, and what we could implement differently when we do it together. And then once we do it together, we can sit down and talk, and then we can go from that point. So I really like that idea. So I'm hoping using this thinking prompt, because like you stated, your goal, you want them to be able to make the connections and for them to see the understanding. So I think having them think about what's going on and what they're doing will help us to reach that goal.
Me too.
All right, so thank you for your time, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what we saw.
I love it.
Okay,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.